like it is a cliche in horror films where just the main character walks in and the TV just happens to be playing what you need to see to understand what's happening.
You know, this could be the beginning.
When you roll over, then you're on my hair.
Of something wonderful.
Tim.
Drive-by movies, you're watching
Fresh releases.
My name's Blaise.
And I am James.
And this week, we're talking the brand new film, Together.
Whiskey for the pain.
Together brings Alison, Brie, and Dave Franco, and years into their relationship, Tim and Millie find themselves at crossroads as they move to the country. With tensions already flaring, an encounter with an unnatural force threatens to corrupt their lives, their love, and their flesh. That is one way to describe this movie. I think a lot of people kind of understand what this movie is just from the general vibe of the trailer, also the posters, and it's still quite shocking when we get to there. And there's also some nice twists and turns along the way. But is it really worth the hype, or is it even worth good reviews? Blaise, what are your thoughts coming out of Together?
Yeah, this wasn't a film necessarily. I think maybe when I first saw the trailer, first heard about it, I was a little bit more excited than, leading up to the movie actually being released. I think I was starting to take my foot off the gas pedal, at least with my interest in horror. I felt like has been waning a little bit for a lot of the major releases, not just overall interest in horror. I'm starting to feel like all the more recent horror movies just don't really lean into the funness of the reasons why I enjoyed liking horror, like the campy vibes or just the fun comedy aspects, as well as mix with the macabre. But I felt like maybe this one might be leaning a little bit more towards that until I started seeing the trailers. Oh, this looks like it's definitely taking a more horrific angle. Thinking recently, some of the movies that I really enjoyed that kind of go for that vibe of horror that I kind of like was The Monkey. I feel like that really encapsulated what I like in a horror movie, and a lot of people really didn't like The Monkey, but I felt like this was going to be a little bit further away from that kind of vibe and more towards that horrific kind of whoa, I'm seeing something crazy I've never seen before, and less maybe society. But yeah, I'd say that I enjoyed this movie. It was kind of more along the lines of what I was expecting, I think. And I wish it kind of dove more into that comedic aspect, because there's just some really crazy scenes in this movie that I feel like could have been played more for laughs than they were. They were still played kind of more horrific. They are funny scenes, but I felt like my audience and a lot of horror audiences in general aren't even generally able to decipher whether a scene can be funny or not unless it's really explicitly obvious.
Yeah, interesting you should bring that up, just because, I was wondering, was this movie played for laughs, or was that just, kind of the sickness that I just find in, horror films just funny? Because, there are some sequences that I'll still laugh at that, are just, gory, and I just find gory fun, and I'm just having a good time, blast watching it. But overall, this movie, I found to be, pretty funny, and, I thought it was definitely intentional within, some of its moments. Similarly to The Monkey, less so though. I thought The Monkey was a lot more comedic versus this movie, but I was actually just caught off guard by how surprising and how much comedy was in this movie, than what I expected, just because overall I was expecting more just a serious drama with some unexpected grotesque sequences within this movie, and we still get that. But yeah, overall this movie I thought was great and a really fun watch. There was some issues I had towards the end of the movie when we're kind of given an exposition dump. There isn't really a scene of explanation, but just a very obvious sequence where I was just oh, how convenient that we're getting answers. I'll just say it's it is a cliche in horror films where just the main character walks in and the TV just happens to be playing what you need to see to understand what's happening. I'm just oh wow, very on the nose there. Other than that though, that's really my only complaint with the movie. Outside of that, it's a very solid story that I feel like a lot of people can relate to. just in terms of just like whether or not you're moving to a country or kind of at the end of a relationship or something, but still making things work. And just, you know, me being in my mid 30s, these characters in their mid 30s, like it just worked well. It was like a nice movie to watch at the time.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I thought that, like you're saying, like there is this cliche moments that sometimes you're like, this feels like almost like a note, like a studio note or something. I know that's probably not, but you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, oh, we have to do this to just get the lore across. And really, I felt like the lore in this movie was really well done, and you could have put those pieces together yourself. You didn't really need like the expo dump scene, whether it's you're looking at a TV or a character's, you know, saying something or kind of explaining what's going on. And that kind of, I think the ending is kind of where this fell apart for me. I would say the rest of the movie I was super into. The production design in the cave I thought was excellent. It looked like so extraterrestrial and looked like something straight from H.R. Geiger's notebooks. And there was a lot of cool stuff like that, but when it gets to the end, I felt like this movie was kind of falling apart, especially the shocking ending scene. Yeah, it was kind of losing me. And there was also some visual effects that looked really bad towards the end in this movie, I felt like. Where the rest of the movie, when it was like more grounded in practical effects, I thought the practical effects were incredible. I don't know, this film kind of fell off towards the end. But overall, I agree with you. It was like a fun watch. It was entertaining. It was kind of a little bit more along the lines of what I was expecting, but I wanted a little bit more from it.
Right, because I was expecting more from it, just, you know, it being a Neon film. Nothing against, like, you know, Neon has actually, like, we've done the argument of Neon versus A24. And, you know, usually I've generally just preferred what Neon's put out. But, you know, they've had some, like, questionable movies that they've kind of bought recently. I'm like, really? Like, that's what you're buying? Like, that seems like kind of like crap. And I'm not saying that this is a part of it, but it felt a little bit more mainstream in like, that like it felt like a very studio note thing, like, well, we need to have this to explain. Like, I'm like, did y'all listen to a test audience? I thought Neon was the studio that doesn't listen to test audiences. They just let the filmmaker do whatever they want. And, you know, like, maybe there's legality reasons behind it. I don't really want to get into the legal issues this movie has, just because I don't know anything about the previous movie that this movie apparently ripped off. Like, I know that apparently the endings are identical and and the script was stolen, blah, 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 blah. I don't know all the details. Like, you can let us know in the comments below, but just, I was just surprised by like it kind of having that mainstream feel, just because I know in the trailer, like they were like saying like, this is the most sick and twisted movie you will see this year. And it's not, like, you know, I still had a blast with this movie, but like, you know, I expected more from Neon, I guess you could say, but still very solid movie that I loved and will definitely probably watch again. But yeah, I
don't know if I would watch this again. I will say I liked seeing Dave Franco and Alison Brie, like they're a real life couple, like seeing them. I don't think they've done any movies where they're like in it together, really. I could be wrong, but this I felt like was my first time experiencing them both on screen at the same time. That was fun, like seeing that little like nod. It's cool to see them work together. And I feel like maybe I'd revisit it for that, but overall, like the story I felt like was a little bit lacking for me. I don't know if there's going to be a Together too, but the lore was cool. The lore dump maybe not so much, but the actual lore of the film was pretty cool. But yeah, I would say like this film definitely feels a little bit samey from some of the stuff we've gotten recently in the horror genre. And there's just a lot of feel bad horror out there, and I'm kind of wanting that feel good horror. You know what I mean?
I thought this movie, I liked the feel good ending with this one. I thought,
is it though?
I mean, like, I liked the idea, like, you know, spoilers here, but like, you know, I liked the kind of just like they decide like, we love each other, let's just spend together and come together as one. Like, I enjoyed that aspect, and the song was comical for me too, and that was an aspect too that I was cracking up. And, you know, that felt very intentional, of course, but there were also some other sequences too where I thought like it felt very much intentional, like especially that bathroom sequence, like, you know, that made me wince like crazy, but that was also a hilarious sequence too. Just the idea that they put themselves in this situation and then also just like backfires like crazy, and then that's the end point. Like, how did we get there? Like, I was cracking up during that sequence despite it being absolutely like that was like a messed up sequence, like that I guess, like, you know, I never would have thought of, and never thought I would see a sequence like that in a movie. And I was just like, oh wow, we actually showed that for like a brief second.
Some of the cool like lore stuff I feel like they kept out of the trailers, which was, you know, a pleasant surprise, because nowadays it feels like trailers show absolutely everything and you end up like getting the whole movie spoiled for you in the trailer. But yeah, I would say check this out if you're interested at all in a fairly original horror movie. I know, like you mentioned, they have like these legal troubles, and is this movie actually original or not? We're not here to really discuss that, but yeah, I'd say that the movie is definitely worth a watch.
Yeah. I still had a blast watching it, and like I said, I would definitely see myself watching this again. But yeah, like Dave Franco still continues to like do great, I think. I keep thinking that he directed this movie just because he directed The Rental, and then his name's like all over this movie as like an executive producer and stuff. But you know, we're still getting like original movies like this, whether or not it's from Neon or just like IFC or A24. Like, I still appreciate more movies like this coming out. Like, I never thought like I'd have so many horror films coming out this year, because, you know, last week we talked about a horror film. We're going to talk about more horror films in the next coming weeks too. And, you know, I'm surprised how great and how much of a blast I'm having watching all these new films coming out almost weekly, it seems like. But the fact that we have a couple coming out a month that I'm enjoying is great. So yeah, I recommend checking it out. Let us know what your thoughts about Together are in the comments down below. That's a great way to help support the show. You can also rent it through our Amazon affiliate link in our description box below.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get all latest updates.
Oh, and speaking of updates, catch the social media links down below for Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and also our own personal Letterboxd accounts. That's it for this week. Tune in next week for a brand new video.